Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Connecting the Dots. Joining me on this one is Niamh Mannion. Niamh is head of brand at She Sells Club and is also a self-employed brand story and strategy specialist. She hails from Athlone in
Nice.
Ireland. Did I say that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't pronounce the H. And currently resides in Barcelona, and I'm sure that's a very tough life. Sun, beaches, and tapas, and
It's very hard. It's very
probably
hard
something
here.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so glad I got that pronunciation right, by the way, because that was that was really playing on my mind as we hit record.
No, do you know what? It's so many. Are you talking about like my name?
Well, both, yeah. Actually, I meant Athlone, but the name as well. To be fair,
No, you done both perfectly. To be honest, whenever I meet anyone new, my name is the first thing that throws them off. It's not just when I moved to Barcelona, I thought it was just going to be non-native people that just wouldn't understand my name, but apparently it's everyone, unless you're from Ireland. So
yeah.
it's unique.
I because like I had it actually written down on the screen in front of me here, like I just needed to remember, but I was like, "Don't say Niam, don't say Niam, don't." You know what I mean?
Niamh, Niamh. Yeah, I've got a few different names.
I bet you know how like people always share screenshots of when people have misspelt their name, and like I bet you've got absolutely loads of variations. Like
Yeah,
I can't even imagine how many misspellings there are out there of your name.
for sure. There's been P's in my name. There's been F's, which I understand, but the P, I don't know where that's
Neat.
coming from. Neem, neem, neem. Yeah, honestly, yeah. But you know what? It's a good icebreaker. It
Oh
allows
yeah,
me to speak. So
yeah,
I'll take
brilliant.
it.
Can you start by giving the audience a flavor of your life and career to date, and how you ended up pivoting into branding, which of course is what you specialize in now?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a bit of a mixed mash in terms of like my background. It's like with psychology, philosophy, sociology and political studies, life coaching, digital marketing, all bundled up into one. But I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of like with branding because it kind of zones in on like human behavior, feelings, emotions, but also having the side and understanding digital marketing, social media, communication channels as well. So yeah, I decided to pivot into branding because for the last year I've wore many different hats from social media manager, from virtual assistant to content creator to recently ghostwriter. And I realized with a lot of clients was that when I would ask them about a little bit more detail about their business or who their audience is, because essentially that's what I'm helping them do is like I'm creating content for their social media so they can speak to someone. Some of them didn't, well, not some of them, the majority of them wouldn't tell me a lot of details in terms of like who they were actually speaking to. I had someone say that they didn't know whether it was male or female, and I think you can have you can have segments that are obviously male or female, but if you can't tell me if it is if just a simple question in terms of that, then it's a lot harder for me to do my job and for me to help them, for me to achieve the results. And then it kind of ends up in I guess a bad taste in each other's mouths because they're not getting the results, but because we're not sure of who we're actually going for, then it creates like this disconnect between who they're trying to reach and what their business stands for. So I pivoted into branding because I also felt this misalignment in terms of like creating content, in terms of when I was speaking about my business, I really struggled and I could tell by other people they weren't understanding what my value was or what I actually did. There was people that were telling me, I always go back to this story in terms of like when I first put out my website, people thought that I was a coach because of obviously like the language that I was using, it wasn't super clear. Like I was super interested into mindset, and that's kind of what I was posting. But in my logic was that I post mindset to attract coaches because that's who my target audience was at the time, that we would relate in that way. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, I had to put myself through the whole process again of almost being like, okay, what is my business stand for? Where does my uniqueness kind of land? What's my passion? Because at the end of the day, you are helping. It is about the customer, it is about the client, but you also need to have some form of passion, some why as to why you do something. And yeah, when I kind of went back and looking at my history, looking at different pinnacle points in terms of like, let's say my brand story or my narrative, it just became a lot more clear in terms of like, that's how I can help people is by helping them find their why, what their mission or vision is, that brand DNA that kind of makes up the brand, and how to communicate that online. And yeah, so I'm so much happier in branding now, because it just feels more like me, and part of my service then is almost like I'm your strategic partner, if you want to say. So I'm a bit of a cheerleader as well. So I combine kind of the human behavior with the branding, with also being a cheerleader. And I think that's a good service.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love that word cheerleader, like because I feel like a lot of people as well will struggle to big themselves up enough and really believe in what they're doing, and they probably do just need that outside perspective to remind them of all the great things they're doing and who they help. Because you're going back to something you said right at the start, when you put people on the spot, and I've been in this position many times where people have said to me, "Who do you help? What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know."
It's
You
panic.
all get you all get a lot of people who aren't sure about that. So I guess from those 2 points, what you do is so important, both in terms of helping people identify who they help and how they help them, but also like bigging themselves up and remembering that, it's important that they're their biggest cheerleader more than anything else.
For sure, definitely. And I think kind of the reason why I also like being the cheerleader side, and I feel like people kind of need it, is social media can sometimes tell you you're a failure, that you're not, if you're not making these 10K months, if you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you need to be on this platform, you need to be doing this. I think you get so overwhelmed and you start comparing yourself, and then it's like, oh, why did I start my business? Then it becomes this big massive spiral. Whereas if you do have that branding kind of foundations of like your why and where you want to go, you can take inspiration from other people, but essentially at the end of the day, if you have a clear vision and you have a roadmap,
Mm.
doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing, because you're carving out your own path and you know
Yeah.
what you stand for, and you're attracting those, the right people.
Yeah, exactly. And you've actually reminded me we need to talk about the concept of a roadmap later, because that would be really interesting for a lot of the viewers.
Yeah.
We'll come on to talk about that a bit later on. But one thing I just want to pick up on is that it's something you actually said to me in a previous conversation, in that a lot of the clients you work with don't have that initial foundation of what a brand actually is. So, from your perspective, like just kind of distilling it into its most simple form, what is a brand, and more specifically, what is personal branding?
So when people think of branding, they think of the external part of what a brand is, the logo, the website, the kind of pretty things that people see. But a brand is that experience. It's the feeling you essentially give to someone when they think about your brand. Because the way that I see it, and I did a post about this on LinkedIn before, a lot of people had said like, oh, I don't buy things because of the identity. Like I just buy it because I need it. But like subconsciously, it is back there in the back of your mind. Like, why did you choose a certain product? Okay, you mightn't be always conscious that you are choosing something because of what it stands for, but you kind of are when you go into the brain. So it's kind of, yeah, essentially a brand is the experience. It's the feeling, it's the perception, and it's being part of something bigger than yourself. That's how I kind of would describe it. In terms of personal branding, it's the way that I also see personal branding as well, and a lot of people that I see that do really well when it comes to personal branding, is because they put themselves out there and they show up and display themselves. So how they explain there's let me start that again. So, what they post online, they live up to it. They put themselves out there, they're building that trust, they're building that credibility. And some of the people that I've seen kind of blow up, let's say on LinkedIn, is because they've went out and done workshops, they've went out and done talks, they're living the whole experience. And like that's essentially what a personal brand is you are living up to your own standards, I guess, of what you're saying. Because at the end of the day, it's not you that creates the perception, it's the audience, it's the client, it's the other person, the other side. When you're not in the room, that's that's your personal brand. Everyone has one, but some people choose to actually build upon it and then open up more opportunities for themselves.
I think as well, like there's something that you said there that I really found interesting, which was around this whole idea of lived experience. And, people talk about the threat of AI, and it's one
Yeah.
thing that AI cannot do. I assume it can't do this at the moment,
Yes, yes.
unless you give it an extensive number of prompts. But replicating that lived experience, and really reflecting on that lived experience in a way that's authentic to you, which is why I find the concept of ghostwriting crazy. And don't get me wrong, there are some brilliant ghostwriters out there, but I do find it very odd that people can sometimes tell your story better than you can. We're going to come on to talk about storytelling a bit later, but
Yeah.
that was something like out of what you said there that really resonated with me. It was around that experience and that lived experience. And I guess not being afraid to showcase every facet of you. So not just the professional side of you. Like I remember a time when, like I got LinkedIn 10 years ago. I didn't actually start using it properly until about 3 years ago. But when I
Yeah.
got it 10 years ago, this whole idea of showing people who you really were was like unheard of. I mean, I don't even know how many self-employed people, solopreneurs there were at that time, but I guess the
Yeah.
number would be a lot higher today. But back then, it was just like the most straight-laced version of yourself. Like I don't know if you've seen these memes online, but it's like, you know, um, your profile picture on Tinder versus
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
yeah,
Because like your mum sees it on LinkedIn and
yeah.
Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, LinkedIn, you literally. I remember, funnily enough, my first LinkedIn photo was a picture of me that I got my then flatmate to take of me in like this new Farah shirt that I'd bought with a sheet out like behind me, like a white background, because it was the only white background we had. And I pinned this sheet to the wall. I think I hung it over like a railing, like a curtain rail, and I
Yeah.
basically because it was the only white thing we had in the house in the flat. Sorry, because all the walls were like weird colors, but I had that, and I literally am stood like that,
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
with my Farah
yeah.
shirt on. It's so funny.
Oh,
Yeah, he was a very obliging photographer. But yeah, it's changed a lot. It has changed an awful lot. And this whole idea of, people being every single version of themselves and being unapologetic for it is brilliant. I'm all here, I'm here for it.
yeah, no, 100%. I'm the exact same. And it's funny because when I'm more of like an Instagram girly, that's kind of where I grew up on. And I would have shown a lot of my life and being 100% myself. So it's just funny that you say that there because obviously LinkedIn has developed in this whole different platform. Someone has said to me recently it's more like Facebook now, which I can kind of see the comparison slightly. But I don't know, I think that kind of helps me in a way in terms of helping other people show up online is because I did it and it's not as scary as people think. It's like, oh my God, what are people going to think about me if I post about something personal? And it kind of falls into like the spotlight effect. You think that everyone thinks as much about you as you think about you
Yeah,
yourself, when really no one is actually thinking about you whatsoever. So I think
yeah,
showing
yeah,
those parts of yourself, I really think at the end of the day, if you're buying a product or a service, a lot of it does come down to the person, the personality, who you click with, kind of what they stand for. It always comes back to your own DNA and essentially your brand's DNA or your business's DNA. That's what you're essentially connecting with. It's not, everyone has, there's a lot of ghostwriters, there's a lot of businesses that have the same features, has the same services, but everyone is completely unique. So
yeah,
that's really what makes them different.
yeah. I love what you said there. People aren't thinking about you like you're thinking. I've said that before on a previous podcast, like, and it is so true. Like we can get in our own heads a lot. In fact, I want to ask you this from your perspective because it was really interesting something you just said about your own journey and your own experiences. Like, how do you find that your personal branding has pivoted over the years? Obviously, you're helping other people with it, but now, like, the spotlight's on you. I'm putting you a bit on the spot here, but what's that journey been like for you? Like, how has your kind of branding changed over the years?
Do you know what? I don't think it's changed too much, like in a way that I think when I first came on LinkedIn, I done what everyone else did. I was very kind of, well, half and half. So half of me was kind of posting stuff that I would have posted on Instagram, and obviously that wasn't landing because obviously you need to adjust to the platform slightly. I was speaking about mindset, so then that creates the association of, oh, she must be a coach. So I
Yeah,
really had to like pull that back and be like,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
no, no, I'm
yeah,
not a coach. This is not what I'm doing. So yeah, then I was using kind of jargon and formal tone because I thought that's what I had to do. But I think in terms of like building a personal brand on LinkedIn, like there's a lot of opportunities that have come my way, and I will put my hand up and say I could definitely do a lot more. Like podcasts, like what we're doing here now, like webinars, putting myself out there a lot more because if I'm telling other people to do the same, then I also, need to do the same as well. Um, I think it's funny because I feel like my personal brand, I feel like I am Instagram on LinkedIn, if that makes Makes sense. I don't know if maybe it
It's a lot
does.
of crossover nowadays. There really is.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
quite mad. I see people integrating TikTok videos on LinkedIn now, which if you just said 5 years ago that would happen, I just could never have believed it. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, should there still be boundaries? I don't know. I'm not sure anymore because the world's changing, isn't it? And like,
Yeah.
it's almost like there's probably a much more profound way of putting this. Some philosopher has probably said what I'm about to say in about half the number of words, but like, you almost don't get to decide what the new norm is. People decide that for you, and millions of people around the world already kind of have.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
and
that's pretty much, yeah. So what can the I suppose consequences be of businesses not being clear on their branding? So how does not being clear on their branding restrict businesses and business owners?
yeah. So I would say for the business owner and also for whoever the audience is, it's this misalignment. And I think it's because I've also felt this as well, that you started your business for a specific reason. So if I go back to my own specific reason, it's that it sounds very, I don't know if it sounds woo-woo, but for me, the reason why I started my business is because I want to help others succeed. Again, this cheerleader aspect is coming in, where I want to help businesses that want to have a global impact. So I'm working with someone on a local scale so that they can have a global impact. This kind of plays into the purpose-driven businesses. Also, we'll touch on too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think if you are not aligned with what your business is, if you're not aligned what you're offering, if you don't know who you're speaking to, it's just very confusing. You're wasting a lot of resources. You're leading to burnout as well, because if you are you're trying everything, every tactic, every strategy that everyone else is doing. So essentially you're just taking things from other people instead of really sitting down and being like, okay, what can I do? Where's my unique skill? How how does my audience basically consume this information? Then you're just wasting so much money, and yeah, and then leading to burnout, which a lot of entrepreneurs or even business owners, they experience that too fast because they're trying to do so much, trying to keep up, because obviously social media, everything, it's moving so fast, especially with AI. You want to move as quickly as everyone else. So I think understanding your brand DNA and having that direction, that doesn't make you burn out. Like obviously you need to have boundaries with yourself as well, but I think it gives you a clear path. You know what you are, like the goals that you need to hit each month, how well you're doing as a brand yourself. Are you following up with like what your values are? So let's say collaborations, partnerships, like these, all
yeah,
these things come, all these things help brands because they have this clear path. They know who to collaborate with. They know what kind of PR they need to do. They know what kind of sponsorships, that all kind of comes back to this brand DNA again. Yes,
yeah.
I would just say wasting resources and blending in as well. You need to stand out.
You know
Um,
what? So interesting you talk about collaborations because one of the things that I do with my clients, so I write blog content mostly for clients. I can do website content as well, but mostly what I do is retainers, content writing, LinkedIn posts, blog articles, ebooks.
yeah.
One thing that I do to try and get a foot in the door with their ideal customer is interview their ideal customer. So if I say to them, what
Mhm.
are 5 companies that you'd like to work with right now? I'll
Yeah.
then try and find a way to come up with an article that like my client, this is, I'll try and find a way to come up with an article that their ideal audience will like and that will resonate with them, but that we can also interview someone they'd like to work with for, if you see what I
Yeah.
mean. So like then
I
there's
like
that collaboration. And then the upshot of that is, they'll share the article as well, because sometimes these two companies will have a crossover in terms of the people they'll want to work with. So then
yeah.
it gets that my client more traction in that way. They might throw a backlink to their website, from the PR point of view, because you mentioned PR there, like that's so important to get more backlinks, especially follow links from an
Yeah.
SEO standpoint. So things like that can be really powerful, and that feeds into branding, I think, in almost like, I wouldn't say getting another brand to represent your brand, but making that the wider part of your branding. I've said brand a lot there, so my head's. It's true, isn't it? Like
Every time we say branding. No, 100%. I totally agree. And this is what I mean in terms of like branding in the sense it's not just social media. It's like thinking about like these networking opportunities, collaborations, PR, brand building, like getting into articles. I hate using the word leveraging someone else's audience, but you know what I mean, as in
Yeah,
collaborating.
yeah, yeah, of
You know,
course.
dude, it's I hate that word, but essentially that's what it is. Do you know? So it's like thinking outside of the box, instead of just thinking, okay, it's just for social media. Like there's so many different ways you can build a brand and connect with your audience. It's just about finding that way that works for you. And I think that's great that you do that with your client. That's a um very smart move. So well done.
Yeah. So um we're going to get on to like narrative and storytelling now. I think that's something I'd really like to talk about because something you write a lot about. You shared a post about it the other day. And I'm thinking about the word storytelling specifically, in narrative as well, but more storytelling. So I mean that both from the perspective of the business, so like its origin story and also the hero story. So um, positioning the business's customer as the hero. So can you
Yeah.
can you talk through how you help businesses do that? How do you help businesses uncover their story and the stories of their customers?
Yeah, of course. So it kind of comes back to essentially the why again. Okay, why you got started. So what is the purpose for your business? Like, what is the problem that you are solving? Because in general, a lot of businesses, in general, they start something because they also face the issue. So understanding their story, but also I think combining it with the why. But also like to think of, depending obviously if it's like a big large company or whether it's a smaller company or a solopreneur, that I would like to uncover like pinnacle points in their life that led up to their business and kind of their struggles, their challenges, their failures, their successes, because I think that's how people can connect. That's how people can really see themselves in their journey. And obviously, then when it comes to, so obviously understanding the origin story, people can connect with that. But then you obviously have the hero story where essentially it's not about the business, it's about the customer. So you are bringing them on a journey in terms of like, they have this problem, how you are helping them with the solution that they essentially are the hero. I don't know
Yeah.
if I've explained that properly, but it just for me in terms of finding your story, finding your narrative, it's about looking at what type of experiences shaped you as a person and how are you shaping, I guess, the customer or the client as well through
People
your
always want to be able to see
problem.
themselves through someone else, don't they? And that's the
Yeah.
key. This is why, again, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but things like social proof are just so, so important because if you're trying to, David Ogilvy said words to this effect, if you're trying to sell to the everyday person, speak
Mhm.
their language, but
Yeah.
say, but say the things that you think you'd want to read if you were their customer. How often have you had to say to business owners, you are not your ideal customer? That can be quite a difficult de-escalating exercise, I guess, where it's like, or maybe not de-escalating, that's a bit strong, but like just getting them down from that mindset of like, okay, I get that you think this is a great idea. The reality is it's a shit idea, and here's why. Making them understand. No, but like it's true, isn't it? Like, and that's why I think you referenced Nike the other week, and we are going to talk
Yeah.
about this in one of the other questions I've got noted down, uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, like, talk about it through the eyes of your customers rather than just you all the time. I think that can be really powerful as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you're kind of talking about in terms of like that hero story, like what's their current pains, like what transformation are you giving them? So
Yeah.
essentially, again, it always comes down to it is kind of intangible because like feelings and experiences, emotions, you can't hold these type of things, but they obviously you hold them in within you. So essentially, yeah, you are giving them what the transformation is, like what their life is going to look like after they use your product or your service. So I think that's super important is really understanding who your customer or client is and stepping into their shoes because that's another thing that I'm going to be speaking about this week is in terms of like empathy mapping. And
Yeah.
so it's like, what do they see? What do they hear? What do they do? So you can really understand who they are. Because yeah, we fall into this thing of like, oh, we're essentially the person that we're helping, but it's like
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes we're not. Like there may be similarities, but like again, we're all unique. We all have a different mindset, different way of thinking. So yeah.
Look at what you're doing. That's a classic example, isn't it? Because you're looking at it from the outside. Like people can get very engrossed in their businesses, almost to the
Yeah.
point of not seeing the bigger picture and actually maybe not fully understanding the, I want to say like the USPs, but the other opportunities that are out there. So they might not see something in their business that could be a massive selling point, but they've just not honed in on it enough. And I'd imagine that's where obviously someone like you comes in and goes, we need to do more content on this. We really need to hone in on this. Do you know?
No,
Um,
100%. Definitely. Just actually because we're on storytelling here. So one client that I'm working with in terms of like what she sells. Um, so I kind of said to her, and she's the best because I think when it comes to working with someone, when it comes to someone's business, like that is your baby, but it needs to be in an open and collaborative way. They also need to be open to my suggestions. I also need to understand it is their business at the end of the day and you work together. But I noticed that kind of in her offline, I knew so much from her just in terms of her talking, like she tells me her stories, and I feel like I, know her much deeper. But in terms of what she does, I felt like the stories were like a little bit lacking online, and I felt like that's kind of what, just kind of like a disconnect between someone wanting to join her community and essentially with these storytelling. So like even just by adding a few stories, like she already had a huge increase in terms of like followers, people joining her community because she's showing more of herself, this narrative of like who she is. And that's why essentially I think it's just important to showcase these stories because we're wired for stories. We see ourselves and we want to connect over that simple thing.
yeah, absolutely. Um, There's one thing I really would quickly want to mention actually, and I searched for this while you were talking because it tied in perfectly with what you were saying. Is the Life Force 8 by Drew Eric Whitman. So he has a book called Cash Advertising,
Mhm.
and basically it's like 8 basic human instincts that are hardwired into every person, and you actually alluded to a few of them there. So it's great that you're already doing that with your clients. It's like, and I'll just read them all out here. So you've got survival, enjoyment of life, life extension, enjoyment of food and beverages, which I think I certainly got on board with. You don't drink, do you? You teetotal.
Yeah, that's a new way of saying it.
That sounds bad. That makes it sound like you used to be an alcoholic.
No, I'm Irish, okay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, so I stopped drinking over a year ago now.
Okay.
So
But food and non-alcoholic beverages, other beverages are
exactly,
available.
exactly.
Freedom from fear, pain, and danger, sexual companionship, which we don't want to talk too much about in this podcast, comfortable living conditions, to be superior, winning, keeping up with the Joneses, care and protection of loved ones, and social approval. So, so much of branding is about, I would even say, more than one of those things at any one time. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily like you know more than I do, but I would say that a lot of what you've talked about in this podcast, particularly, I felt I would say survival, enjoyment of life, and life extension was probably the one that resonated with me the most out of everything that you
Yeah,
talked about. And social approval would probably be another one. Like there's all, and that's just a human instinct, So
yeah.
it's I think it's so important that most people when they're you know doing personal branding to try and, I mean, you can probably do one of those 8 things by default. It's quite difficult not to, but you don't want to come across, I guess, as there's probably a balance to be struck between being relatable and humble and not appearing too grandiose either. Like
Yeah.
I would never, I wouldn't want to ask you this question directly, but I would imagine that for some branding specialists with some clients, it might be a challenge at times to say to people, listen, I know you think this is amazing, going back to what I said before, this particular thing that you think is amazing is not that amazing. So maybe we could hone in on this instead. And
Yeah. Thankfully, I haven't had situations like that. I have had people not being too humble and
well,
need
that's good.
to
Okay, that's
give a
better.
little bit more about like what they do, almost kind of um yeah, not hyping themselves up enough or not talking about the results that they get or not seeing it. And again, this kind of comes back into that comparison thing of like, oh, well, this person got, and I've also been a victim of this as well, thinking that, oh, because my results aren't like these tens of million, thousands of impressions or engagements, then what I've received is minuscule when it's not true. Do you know, it's like, yeah, I could talk for days in terms of that, but that's why you need to be your biggest hype person.
Yeah.
You need to, yeah, I do think there obviously is a fine line between being humble, and then being what's grandiose? I can't say the
Grandiose, yeah.
word. Yeah,
Yeah,
that word. Yeah. So thankfully I haven't had to deal with the other side because I feel like that'd be a little bit more difficult
yeah.
in, in terms of
Well, you seem to have some brilliant people in your life, both personally and professionally, and we are going to talk about that a bit later on. But I think, I didn't actually have this written down, but one thing I want to ask actually, and I think it kind of ties in with this next question that I have written down here, but what are the biggest personal qualities that you look for in a branding client? So if you had to say, this is my ideal person right here, like what does that person look like?
Okay, so I'd say definitely collaborative. That would have to be the biggest one. They have to be open-minded. They also have to be willing to try new things because again, you can get stuck in your business or you might have tried something out. You might have tried something and it didn't work, so you don't want to do it again, but maybe it's
Yeah,
just the way that you did it. So it has to be, it's trial and error. So they have to
yeah.
be open and willing to do that. Almost like a growth mindset as well. They also like kind of almost like they do need to have belief in themselves as well, because I'm also not a coach.
You
So
said that, yeah, that's very important stipulation.
just need to put that in there. I'm not a coach. So like also believing in themselves, also being okay with showing who they are. So being authentic. And actually I need to hear the passion in someone's voice about what their mission is. And that kind of ties into the purpose driven thing again, because like there needs to be not every business, okay, needs to have this massive impact, but because my vision is to work with people that want to have this global impact, I want to hear people that are not just thinking of this year, they're thinking of 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 years, that they want to change something for the better of the planet or better for mental health or better for something, essentially. It needs to stand for something. So, yeah, I think they need to be passionate, authentic, and being okay to show that online. Because I know it's not always easy, but I think it's the best thing that you can do for your brand.
I mean, that's the perfect segue really into this question around personality. I mean, I'm ENFP according to the Myers-Briggs framework. Um, what do you know what you are on that actually?
I don't know. I remember doing it ages ago and I can't remember what it is. I feel like it's like mixed with introvert and extrovert, and that's why I
Yeah,
see
you
myself as
described you
ambivert.
actually described yourself as an ambivert, didn't you, on a recent
Yeah,
post?
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, how I mean, I think you've touched on some of this there, but how is your approach to branding influenced by somebody's personality and specifically their personality traits and characteristics?
Yeah, so basically what I would use is like the brand archetype. So there's 12 types. So Carl Jung, I hope hopefully I said that correctly.
Yeah.
Um, so the way that I would figure it out is obviously, I don't know, I feel like you can tell by someone's personality just by speaking with them, because you obviously want, depending again on who your audience is, kind of will determine what the personality or what your tone of voice essentially is, because that's, you want to be able to, as you said, you want to be able to speak their language, you want to be able to connect with them. So I do think that the person behind the business needs to already have those qualities of who they're talking to. Um, because I don't know, yeah. So basically I would go through those 12 archetypes. So, like the jester, the lover, um, can't think of all 12 of them on my head, but
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
put them into characters, and basically like that's how you're building out your personality and like your tone of voice, how you speak to your audience.
yeah.
I
I think there'd be an element of gesture in me, to be honest. I
Yeah, for
definitely,
sure, for sure.
yeah.
Definitely
People have
tested.
talked a lot about Carl Jung, and to be honest, I've not really seen much of his work before, but it seems to be really famous. Like obviously, people really respect him, so that might be worth checking out. In fact, one thing that I could do in this is put a link in the description to, like, does he have a book on Amazon or something? I guess I could throw a link in there.
Should be. Well,
Yeah,
if you looked up brand archetypes, he's
yeah,
basically everywhere. Like so, for instance, like with Apple, they fall into innovator. Like that's the reason why they tend to bring out something every 6 months, every 9 months, every year. Because that's what they stand for. They want to be innovative. They want to create something new that no one else has ever experienced. So they're living up to that type of personality. Even though it kind of seems as if like it's mass production of of phones, of iPads, of tablets. But yeah, it's about using those archetypes to help with your messaging, help with your guidelines, help with kind of like even your imagery as well, because like whatever type of personality you are, that does play into it too. So yeah, that's kind of what I follow.
I just Googled it and I would say that I'm definitely not. Which one of these am I not? I am not innocent. Um, Caregiver, hero, outlaw, outlaw. That's funny. I'd say regular person sounds like such an insult. I mean, I don't. I feel like if someone says that your persona is regular person, like, I would take that quite offensively, to be honest. I don't know.
No, but it's down to earth. It's relatable.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know.
So
Maybe that reflects more on me than anything. Maybe I'm a literal prick, but yeah, I would say more. I'm probably more creator, definitely. I don't want to say ruler because that sounds terrible. That sounds like you're oppressing people. Like, ruler, like you'll do as I say. I'm not. I'd say creator, explorer probably are the two. Lover would be if you're working with someone professionally and you say to them your persona is lover. Is that like a lover of people though? That's obviously not just
I would say lover as in like more I don't know, like lingerie or like
Yeah, but that's what I thought. I was like,
yeah,
yeah,
like what I suppose romantic.
could be a thirst for life. Like Iggy Pop sang. It could be. I need to read into it. Obviously, I don't. But
True, true.
yeah. Um, Right, let's talk about the big one. This is the big question about purpose driven. I can see you laughing because you know what's coming. So I put a post out last week on LinkedIn asking about the meaning of the word purpose driven, which is part of your LinkedIn strapline, which I didn't know when I wrote that post. And I basically said in the post, I felt it's quite a superfluous word. I didn't really understand what it meant. Like every business should have a purpose, but that was due to my understanding of it. Um, and then when you and several other commenters clarified what it meant to you, I found
Mm.
that really interesting. I actually got a different perspective for what it means. It's like a purpose beyond simply making money, simply being transactional, which I guess, I've kind of answered my own question. So that's great with me, really. But so just, you could give me a slightly different answer to that, but can you explain to the audience what being purpose driven means in the context of personal branding and how being purpose driven can help businesses stand out?
Yeah, for sure. I had to laugh when I did see that post though. I was immediately like, is this post about me? Not being offended. I just found it very funny. But it's true because it's there's a lot of words, I guess, on social media that get overused, 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 and then it's just a buzzword. And I feel like in terms of purpose driven, it does kind of seem like a bit of a buzzword. But the way that I see purpose driven, I don't see a lot of businesses that are I guess, driven by purpose or wanting to have this bigger impact. There's a lot of businesses that are profit driven, which I'm not saying that there's an issue with being profit driven. Everyone wants to make money. But I think in terms of purpose, it's like they want to challenge something in society, in the world. They want to make a change, they want to make a difference. And maybe it could be environmentally focused because obviously the planet is obviously huge. Maybe it's sustainability, maybe it's challenging a narrative, for instance, with she sells, it's challenging the narrative of what we're thought of in terms of business, which is more male dominated. It was created by males. So in terms of like even selling as well, it can feel a little bit icky sometimes because of the way that it's, you need to sell, 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 and it needs to focus on urgency and FOMO and all this kind of different things, which I don't necessarily agree with, because I think that's pushing people into a corner. So I think having this purpose is bigger vision to change something for the betterment of the
Mhm.
world and not like nonprofits. They're obviously for the most part, most nonprofit organizations, are more purpose driven. They want to change something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of who I want to work with because they're more driven and yeah, I just much prefer to work with them because it aligns with me also.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, because the thing is, when we talk about branding, and this is kind of me putting two and two together, but I feel like the branding you have as a business owner and the kind of ethics and philosophies that you have as a business owner really have to align with the people that you're working with. It's very easy to just go, oh, I'll take money from anywhere, I'll work with anyone. But you have to ask yourself sometimes, would you go to, well, maybe not in your case, unless they were selling Coke or cranberry juice, but would you go to the pub with this person? Would you go out,
Mm,
would you go for a walk in the park with this person?
yeah.
'Cause I've had clients before, I'm like, you're an asshole. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
I really don't like you at all. Like, I would have nothing to do with you if you weren't paying me money. So that's important, I think, in terms of, because we have to remember this, like, you know, who we choose to work with, that's like a representation or a manifestation of us. That's us. Let's never forget
Absolutely.
that. It's easy
Yeah.
to just think, oh yeah, more money's coming through, but what do you actually like about that person? Like, let's say at the time of recording, because things can always change quite quickly. But my main client who I work with in Texas, the guy who I work with there, like I've got so much respect for. Like I actually really like him as a person,
Yeah.
and that's just so important. I think it's
Yeah.
something people can overlook.
No, 100%. And I think especially when you're starting out, you kind of just like obviously for me, it was only last year that I started that I think you just kind of take everything and anything. So you don't really think about like what the person is kind of what type of client they are because you don't have experience with that already. So I think you have to align with them. Your values have to align as well because like boundaries get crossed. Um, yeah, it just creates this resentment. So yeah, you need to work with people that you can align with on the vision. You can invest in their business too. And yeah, that they're just a nice person because no one wants to work with mean people. I don't anyways. But yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's why again I said, I'm not a ruler. So if you did want to
Exactly.
one of the good guys, which is always a reassuring thing when someone tells you they're one of the good guys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
Haven't heard that
another
before.
part of your LinkedIn strapline, which I found really interesting, was the creating a roadmap for success. So, do you
Mhm.
want to explain to the viewers what that looks like in practice, and maybe talk a bit about what your process is there?
Yeah, of course. So essentially what we would do, like this strategic roadmap is giving an outline to brands that they can follow. So obviously we work on in terms of like what their brand DNA is, so their purpose, their values, their mission, their vision, their ideal clients, so they know who they're speaking to. So that would be essentially in the phase one. So you have this um yeah, you have your essentially your brand DNA. So that's deep diving into that. Then you would look at taking this foundation and then translating that into how you communicate that online, whether it's to your website, through social media. So yeah, you're clarifying what you say it and how you say it so that it's clear about what you stand for and who you're trying to speak to. And then essentially you are looking at all touch points. It can go a little bit longer. You can have just in one part, it's just a strategy workshop where essentially we'd work on that DNA and how to communicate that across social media. But then we can also look at more of like a long-term plan as well from like 12 to 18 months. Because this is what I mean that I don't want to work with clients in the short term. Like I want to also be invested in your business and see you succeed also as well. And sometimes when we can give someone a plan, sometimes they don't put the plan into place. They need a little bit of
Yeah,
guidance.
I've been guilty of that as well. I've been guilty of that as well.
I've also been victim to that as well. And I think it's that accountability. I think it's, sometimes we're a little bit we needed it not like a push. It sounds awful when I say that, but you know what I mean? It's and like, no, this is going to work. Just let's try it out. You've also got me um to support you, I guess. So yeah, they walk away then with like that brand strategy, different touch points that are also outside of social media. So again, as I mentioned, like the PR opportunities, collaborations, networking, especially if it's a business in Barcelona, just because of obviously with the MBA, which is the Metropolitan Business Association, that's for like entrepreneurs, business owners, and like startups
Yeah.
different connections, there's different collaborations to be had. So yeah, it's about thinking outside of the box and then giving them that roadmap so that they have a clear idea, even for the first year, and to implement that, and then they have something to go off. Because yeah, if you're starting on nothing with shaky foundations, then burnout happens way too quickly. And we don't want that.
No, definitely not. And that's very, very easy to do. I think you've said this a few times on the podcast, is like how um how quickly one can burn out, especially when you're spinning multiple plates. And obviously that ties in a bit with your ideal client, really, because you've said, you want to work with smaller outfits. And the thing is, I find this myself is like, I've got a to-do list here with like, 20, 25 things on it already. It's only Tuesday and I'm doing a lot of it myself. I do outsource some stuff, but it can be really, really difficult for people like that. And I think that's where you come in as, I don't want to say just an arm around the shoulder because that sounds quite disparaging, but basically like that, and also the strategy you talked about there, the vision and values, just amplifying that and helping people understand it in plain English because a lot of it can just be modeled up in your head. Like because I'm a member of, well, it's called Premier, which is a long story, but it's a spin-off from BNI. I don't know if you've ever been
Yeah.
to BNI before, but you have to stand up every week and do a 60 seconds, and that can be brutal. But you get to a point where you get into a rhythm and you just basically are saying a lot of it on autopilot. So, like
Yeah.
in my case, it's I write words that explain in plain English how your product or service will change someone's life. You know,
Okay.
but you've got to look for words that resonate with people. So what's great about that plain English? Most people just want it to be in plain English, but change someone's life. Because what a lot of people will do is, and you said this earlier, which I really liked. I think you said something about less us and more you, or less we and more you. Because a lot of businesses will go and again, this is where the thing about purpose driven came out. But a lot of businesses will say we are a dynamic, disruptive, results driven business. Results driven annoys me more than purpose driven because it's like, well, what are you fucking doing in business if you're not results driven? You should
No,
be.
that's valid. That's valid.
You know what I
Results.
mean? So, but people don't want to know all that stuff. I don't care that you're all this. I want to know what you're going to do for me. How are you going to change my life? Because if you're
Yeah.
not saying that, then it's just, it's all kind of redundant, really.
No, 100%. Like it goes back to what I previously said there is that um, with the brand, it's an experience, it's a transformation as well. Because like you are giving them a transformation. They're buying from you because they want to change something in their life. Do you know
Mm.
whether it's they want to be identified with something or maybe they have this need? So yeah, that's the whole point of that's the way that I see branding is that you're buying something because you want to improve or you want to change something that is not working in your life right now.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that life force eight, really, doesn't it? When you think about
Mm.
like, what would it mostly be? It would mostly be you want more money, you want to be healthier, you want to look better, I mean, I feel like most things in life come down to that, or safety and security. But again,
Yeah.
money, I don't know. It's not always money, obviously, but it is mostly that. It's like money, safety, security, social status, health, how you look, how you feel,
Mm.
down to one of those four or five, really. So really, he fucked up there, didn't he, with the life force eight? It should have been four, four or five. It's only that because you can probably group a lot of those into the same thing. But anyway, moving on because I don't want to waffle on about that. But anti-vision. Let's talk about anti-vision.
Yeah.
So you shared, just so everyone knows, you shared a LinkedIn post recently that read, if you're unsure of the type of person you're speaking to, change it up from writing out the ideal, write out the anti-vision.
Yeah.
Explain what you meant by that. What is anti-vision and how can it help people and businesses get clearer on their branding?
Yeah, for sure. So we as humans, we have a negative bias. We are more inclined to find the flaws or the negative things in everything. We love to focus in on that. So I almost think that if you are struggling to figure out what your ideal client is or what your ideal vision is to do the complete opposite. It's to look at like what you don't want because it's so much easier to say what you don't want, especially if you've had experience with different clients or, you've had a taste of what your life could look like, but you don't want that direction. So it's a lot easier to put that down and then almost just if you have that down on a piece of paper, then it's like, okay, what's the opposite of ignorant? Do you know what I mean? Okay, you don't want someone that's ignorant. So then you can start building out this ideal profile and really kind of honing in on like, okay, well, this type of person is um I'm trying to think, what is the opposite of ignorant?
Well, like aware, conscious, conscientious would
There.
like that. Yeah.
So, yeah, so essentially, yeah, you're just doing basically the opposite. And I think you can do that with everything. Like if you're struggling to figure out what your ideal thing is always just do the opposite of it. Always
We
just
said
put
it before, didn't we, about clients who are a nightmare. So I literally like, for me, it'd be quite easy doing that because I'd be like, right, what do I not want? Okay, I don't want a client who pays me 2 months late. I don't want a client who makes a load of revisions, then I change it, then they make more revisions on top of the ones they already did, and
Yeah.
then they get two or three other people from the business to look at it, even though that's not in the agreement. Things like that.
This is very specific. I like
Yeah,
it.
honestly, it's bullshit. Yeah, so there's probably quite a few. I don't want to turn this into a therapy session, so I'm not going to list them all out, but there's quite a few there that I could quite easily pick up on. And it's a really good strategy because if you give people like me the chance to rant about stuff or to moan about stuff, then they will. But that then helps you then carve out the absolute ideal avatar, doesn't it? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
exact opposite of yeah. I
Yeah. No, yeah, it definitely kind of refines that type of niche, the kind of type of person that you're going for. Also helps you see the red flags before you invest in anything. Because if you've already had an experience with that type of client, but if you haven't, but you've kind of created an idea in terms of like who your anti-vision client is, you can kind of sense in the way in the sales calls, maybe how they're responding, maybe they're
yeah,
texting you at
yeah,
11,
yeah, yeah.
even before you've even signed them. So
Yeah.
it kind of
You
helps
save
you
so
that
much,
way.
you save
Yeah.
so much time as well. That's a great point. It's like how much time do business owners waste on things like proposals? Like I remember spending a day and a half putting a proposal together for someone who I never fucking heard back from. I was on the call with her, never heard back from her again. And you see, this is the thing, you just think to yourself, if I'd have just been clear in my head, right, because now I just get the upfront commitment. I say, this is what it like. I ask them about their requirements. I say,
Yeah.
this is what you need. This is how much it's going to cost. Is that a commitment that you are ready to make right now? It, you know,
Yeah.
and if they basically go, oh, well, maybe it's something we can chat about and we can work together again in 6 months. No, I'm not. I'm not. I know people might say that's a bit cutthroat and, you end up costing yourself work as a result. But to be honest, I don't really care. I'd just rather work with people who are open and transparent and are ready to make that investment because it is an investment. This is the thing I always say to people, like with your service and my service, it's like, it shouldn't be seen as spending money. It should be seen as investing money so that you get it back 10 times over in the long run. It's like the stock market, even if you make 10% gains on what you're investing with me, so you get all your money back and you get an extra 10 or 15%, then
Yeah.
it's a great investment. And that's how people need to start thinking about it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally agree with you in terms of before it used to be like, oh, I'll just change the prices or I'll adjust it to the person. And that just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I almost think it comes down to almost your value, how you value yourself also too. Because like you said there, it isn't, oh, I'm just spending money. It's an investment. You have an issue and you know, if you aren't willing to invest, then I almost think it's not the right time. Like you're not 100% there seeing it as a bigger problem. That's totally fine, you know? I think, you shouldn't be forced into paying something that you're not 100% sure about, Because then that's also a
Yeah.
little bit of a red flag too, in terms of if they're kind of iffy about the price, then they're probably going to micromanage a bit, then they're probably going to ask for
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so yeah, it gives you that kind of insight in terms of like what it potentially could look like in terms of working together. So yeah, smart move, in my opinion.
Well, I want to just ask this before we move on. I can't remember whether you've told me this already. Are you a Simpsons fan? Do you know The Simpsons?
Of course, yeah. Now, I don't know if I'm a massive Simpsons fan, but I grew up watching Simpsons.
So when we talk about anti-vision, we try and be as concise in this example as possible because I'm aware we've got more important things to talk about. But there's an episode where Danny DeVito plays Homer Simpson's long lost half brother. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Where he's
Okay.
rich, he's really, really rich, and he runs a car making company.
Yeah.
So basically, so Homer stumbles across this half brother by chance. His grandpa Abe tells him about him, and then he
Yeah.
gets to his house, and it's like a massive mansion, and he just does not. He can't comprehend how someone would have this much wealth. Anyway, so he then goes down to the car factory where his half brother works, and obviously he's like the CEO, and he's like, okay, so this is how kind of thing. And then he talks Homer through everything, and Homer ends up working for him. It's like a weird transition the way it happens, but Homer that works for him for a bit, and basically then his half brother, I think he's called Herb. That's Danny DeVito's
Mhm.
character.
Yeah.
Herb says to Homer, I want you to design a car. And Homer's like, I can't design a car. I have no experience in this. And Herb's like, all it takes is a bit of belief. Like you see it on LinkedIn with all these fucking gurus all the time. Oh, all it takes is a bit of belief. Okay, well, I'll go and build a Hadron Collider. Then that sound, I just normally I just sit at home and write. But if anyone can put their mind to it, so but he gets him in to design this car, and Homer is just a disaster. He's fucking terrible at it, right? So someone rings Herb when he's at the pool with Bart and Lisa. They're playing in the pool, and he's like listening to this guy from his car factory telling him about Homer. You can't hear what the guy says, and he goes, "All right, all right. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna call me back in 10 seconds, and you're gonna say the exact opposite of everything you just said." Talking about right, and then he goes, "Hey kids, come here. I want you to hear what the people at the plant think about your old man." And then he puts him on loudspeaker, and the guy goes, "Homer," because he's obviously having to think about it. He goes, "Homer
Yeah.
Simpson is a brilliant man with lots of well thought out, practical ideas. He is ensuring the financial security of this company for years to come. Oh yes, and his personal hygiene is beyond reproach." And it was so well written. Like then you're in your head thinking, what did he say before? Like, what was the
Yeah, yeah.
opposite of what he said? So he's obviously saying like Homer is an idiot. He smells really bad. His
Mhm.
ideas are terrible. He's going to bankrupt this business. So
Yeah.
that's a great example of anti-vision, isn't it? Like just
Yeah,
literally what
100%.
that guy would have said on the phone is the opposite of what you want.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. But that's basically exactly it. It's just doing the opposite. It's just so much easier. Yeah, we just
Yeah,
love the negativity, but we need to put it into a positive way.
exactly. So yeah, I just thought I'd take up 2 or 3 minutes of the podcast with that example. It's honestly one of my favorite Simpsons scene of all time. Like he's
No, it was good. It was good. It hammered the point, put the point home. So,
yeah, yeah. Are there
uh,
any examples of branding from around the world which you take inspiration from and which serve as powerful examples for other businesses?
yeah. So obviously the most common one is going to be Nike. I think I don't know what it is about why I love Nike so much. It's probably because of the storytelling. And again, I think the best brands and businesses that do well is their focus is always on the people. And they feel like they're part of something bigger. So like obviously they do use like a lot of big names like Michael Jordan, like in their campaigns and stuff like that. But a lot of it's shows motivation, perseverance, kind of dedication. And that kind of like aligns with me. And also I love the gym and the lifestyle. So I think that's why I'm drawn into kind of their storytelling aspect and kind of their focus on people, the kind of hardships as well. Like I love hearing stories, as as you know, like I love hearing what was the ups, what was the downs, what made you as a person. I think Nike kind of encapsulates that.
Yeah,
Whoa, that was a bit of a hard word to say.
yeah, yeah,
But I also think then you've probably heard of liquid death.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, so obviously Nike masters like the storytelling. Liquid Death kind of masters the disruptive kind of like market. Essentially, all it is water.
Mm.
But they just seen that like water is normally associated with the rainfall, not rain, well, rainfalls, waterfalls, kind of calmness. And they just took alcohol's kind of campaign and said, let's
Yeah.
introduce some water and be completely disruptive. So I think that also is another thing I think a lot of brands should look for is the storytelling being disruptive. And then, for instance, let's say with GoPro doesn't sell its products. Again, it's on the customer again, and they've been doing this type of UGC kind of style content for years, and it obviously works because people feel like again they're part of something bigger.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think almost like those three things of like storytelling being disruptive, whatever that means for you in terms of your market being disruptive, but also, community focused. I think those kind of like are my three pillars, I would say, I would want to base it off.
Well, I think it's funny when you talk about community. One thing that came into my head then was about the cereal. Was it Surreal Cereal, where they were very like self-deprecating and their target audience. I don't want to say it was younger people, but it was kind of obvious in the way that they were presenting themselves, the
Yeah.
way that they would like just things like the visuals, the branding. Like it was very dry humor. Not that I'm saying older people can't, makes any older people are watching this, but it did feel like the demographic was more kind of your 20s and 30s.
Gen Z kind of.
Well, yeah, Gen Z and millennials, but yeah, more maybe more Gen Z if anything. I mean, I am getting on a bit now, so it might be that. I think it was surreal cereal, and they just did so well with it. Like the branding was superb. Like people were sharing that on LinkedIn left and right.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I'd probably say that. It's funny. I'm trying to think of examples from like my perspective, but I think you've pretty much nailed. I mean, Liquid Death definitely. Like I've been known to enjoy a can of Liquid Death. Now it's so expensive, but
I've never, do you know what? I've never actually seen the can. I don't know, is it in Spain or in Barcelona? But I've,
I think it must be somewhere. Well, they sell it in supermarkets over here, uh,
yeah.
but I just think, am I really going to be paying? Can't remember how much it is. I think it's about £1.50 a can or £2 a can. I'm like, it can't be that fucking good. Just get tap water or like
Yeah, yeah,
I've got some Aldi waters
yeah.
here, and
But again, it's the
yeah,
identity. I feel like it comes down to that again. They're disruptive, they're the rebel, they're, the outlaw. They want to yeah, it's I don't know. For me, again, it's literally just water, but I think you buy into certain things because it's like you again what they stand for, what their identity is, and you want to be part of that too. Like it's the same. I posted something I don't know, it was a few weeks back, but I am oh, it's a pity that I don't have the can here. I am a monster. Why did I say it? Monster queen because well, I want to say I'm more caffeinated queen because I love coffee and then also monster, which is not a good mixture at all. But in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
like, say it again.
That's going to get your heart rate going.
Yeah, but well, combined with everything else, it's just pitter patter, pitter patter. But no, in terms of Monster, like for instance, okay, you take Red Bull, you take Monster. Obviously, Red Bull is the most kind of known, I guess, energy drink. But I don't know, I don't feel that I like identity towards it. Whereas with Monster, I do feel more it's more me, and I also feel it's a little bit more like exclusive. If I see people drinking Monster, I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
part of a club. Like, look at
Oh,
you.
the club. Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, so it's again always comes down to brand identity, whether it's subconscious or consciously, we are buying into what that brand stands for.
There can be bad branding as well. One thing that just came to my head then, I don't know if you'll remember this, but Tropicana basically redesigned its packaging. It got rid of the orange with a straw and just replaced it with like a more generic design. It went down really badly. But like, I'm trying to think of other sort of branding faux pas. Have you seen any on like LinkedIn or social media where you've thought to yourself, why did they do that?
Pretty Little Thing and also Jaguar. They
Okay, so what happened with them?
Jaguar went more of like I'm trying to even think of what they had the design before, but they went full blown pink.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's just I don't know, people I seen on LinkedIn was just not happy with it because I think it kind of when I see a car Jaguar, I don't think pink.
yeah.
You know,
You're not you're not thinking of the Barbie movie, are you? When you think
yeah, yeah,
Jack?
yeah, yeah. And it's almost like they did do that to kind of follow a trend, which is another thing that brands sometimes can take too seriously, um, which can fall flat on them because obviously some brands doing trends is obviously good, but it needs to fit in with your whole personality, your tone of voice. Don't just do a brand just because do a brand, do a trend just for the sake
Yeah,
of it. It needs to fit with who that brand is. So yeah, Jaguar, that one kind of caused a little bit of uproar. And then Pretty Little Thing as well, because obviously Pretty Little Thing is not sustainable,
yeah,
um, a little bit ethical, maybe probably.
yeah,
And they also changed their kind of like image to kind of looking like luxury in a
yeah.
way, but obviously this complete opposite because it's all like discounts, selling things for like 5, 10 cents. That might be a bit of an exaggeration there, but as like super low prices, there's always discounts on, and then to change and rebrand into like trying to give this luxury feel, there's a complete disconnect. Like I think when it comes to rebranding, like there's nothing wrong with rebranding, but it needs to be not such a big difference because then you just confuse everyone and then there is that uproar. It's like, why are you trying to be someone that you're not?
And can that be the same with like even someone who, for example, is a one-person band and they're thinking, oh, like I want to go to this completely new, like in a completely new direction, can provide a completely new service. Will you
Mm.
say to them, we can do that, but we have to phase it in kind of thing. We have to have, as you said before, that roadmap. We have to, do this quite carefully.
Yeah, 100%. I think instead of just turning around and say, hey, I'm rebranding completely into this, I do think that it needs to be like a little bit of introduction maybe into your post, see how people react to it. Maybe you're doing almost a bit of beta testing on the side, so that you're kind of getting that feedback from other people, whether or not like this kind of suits. I think also like asking people what their opinion is or what they associate you with to kind of see how far off are you in terms of the association, because we have a tendency to almost like assume. We live in a world of assumption. The way that I see it is that we just assume we know what someone else is thinking. So again, coming back to the story of people thinking that I was a coach, I assumed that everyone knew that at the time that I was the social media manager, but I wasn't, because everything else wasn't adding up. So I think always kind of asking people first as well what associations they have about you, the direction that you want to go, and how you can kind of make that transition from I'm here, they think of me like this, but I want to take me here. So what can I do that kind of gently smooths this transition? Yeah. So it needs to make sense. It can't be the complete opposites of either side.
Yeah. Is there anyone you'd like to give a special shout out to on this podcast who's either helped you get to where you are today? Oh, not you, Siri. Hang on. Siri thinks I'm talking to it.
Thank you, Siri.
Yeah, I know. Is there anyone you'd like to mention on this podcast?
I could mention a whole lot of people, but I want to also say thank you to you for giving me a chance to speak. I really appreciate it. I'd also like to thank the MBA, doesn't the team that I have, because they gave me my little community and entrepreneurial um support, I guess, and I definitely wouldn't be where I am now. And then also two other people I want to highlight. Sorry, you're like, I only asked for one or two people.
Oh, no,
Uh,
yeah, don't worry. I know, no, just mention as many as you want.
Giving back, giving back. No, I want to also highlight Joe Carson, because he also, we worked on a project together and he helped me a lot in terms of understanding how to social write, because there's a difference between writing blogs and social media. And then obviously Sin, that I'm working with, and she sells, she's been amazing, and she's completely transformed the way that I view business. I was starting to resent it because I thought I had to do it the way everyone else was doing it. And then I realized I'm in control.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've all been amazing. I could call out 20 million people, but you get to places with by other people by working with other people. So yeah, I'm very appreciative.
And actually, on that point, because I know you've talked about it a bit on the podcast, but do you want to just do a quick plug off She Sells Club? Do you want to just explain a bit more about kind of what that is and who you're looking to work with potentially if anyone's interested in getting
Yeah, of
involved?
course. Yeah, so she sells basically it's in Sin Linden, so that's her name, but she sells club, which is basically a community for small female business owners who she basically wants to make selling accessible to every single female business owner at such a low price. Like her community is basically $19 per month, but she does master classes, she does challenges. She really has a strong community there, and she basically wants to give women the tools and the expertise and the knowledge so that they can take control of their business. Because a lot of female business owners, we tend to fall into imposter syndrome, or we feel like we need to rely on other people. So she wants to help women essentially regain that
Yeah.
control. And yeah, if you can sell, and she also taught me that marketing and everything isn't the number one thing. Selling basically is the number
Yeah.
one thing. Because if you can sell, you can do anything in life, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Weird, we're coming towards the end of the episode. I've just noticed you've got this like little pulse behind you with the light coming in and out. It looks like a pulse that you see on an X-ray. It's dead weird. Yeah,
I think it's the sunshine coming in here.
yeah, I know. Well, I wouldn't fucking know. I'm in Liverpool. There's no. I can tell you, there's absolutely no sun visible here. I can see a lot of grey. But yeah, are you sure
Oh.
you don't want to? Are you sure you don't want to come back to? Well, yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm
And
happy.
you were never in the UK. You were in Ireland. Sorry, I should never say that to an Irish person. You were
I
in
know.
the
I let it slide. I let it slide.
vastly superior Ireland.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, Niamh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or find out more about what we've discussed?
Yeah, of course. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So my name is Niamh Mannion. And also I've actually rebranded my website slightly. So that'll be coming out I don't know when this is coming out, but it's coming out this week. And it's just niamhmannion.com. So very simple. So yeah, you can find me there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And let's go and watch some classic Simpsons after this. We'll do like a book club, but for old Simpsons. Nothing after Series 8. Nothing after Series 8, because it all goes downhill after that. But yeah, thank you so much, Niamh, once again, and I hope everybody who watched enjoyed watching.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.